I wouldn't consider myself a market guy, but let me give you the tip of the summer. When it comes to Baylor football recruiting right now, buy.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Monarch Money and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. It's a recruiting Thursday on Locked On Baylor as I test out my own sound effects. We're going to be talking about some of the guys who have committed recently for Baylor that could change the way we look at this recruiting class, and some of the guys who are committing somewhere next week that could absolutely change the face of Baylor football recruiting. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Let's start with the guys who have already said, yeah, I'm coming aboard. I'm coming to the Baylor Bears. Because there was a couple this week that we didn't get to in kind of the rush of the shows that we've been doing and the things that we've needed to talk about, but absolutely deserve the shout out here. First one, Donnell Robinson, who committed on Tuesday. Big time interior offensive lineman in my neck of the woods. We call that a guard, sometimes a center. Donnell Robinson, 4-star guard from Mississippi, 6'4", 290. This guy picked Baylor over most of the SEC. Okay, LSU and Auburn were hard on his trail. So were Oregon out of the Big Ten, and of course Florida State in the ACC for now. I have so many of you loyal fans that talk about the trenches and the offensive line in particular. We are gonna have some offensive line talk, both line talk next week, by the way. Trust me, that is coming. So whenever I talk about the receiver or the quarterback or the running back that's committing to Baylor, there are people that are saying, "How are we doing on the line? How are the trenches going? How is the offensive line?" This is your update. That's big. Donnell Robinson, 4-star guy, coming from SEC country that you pried away from some SEC powerhouses. That's huge. That's big. And now that's done. Let's get into the sexy stuff. I'm talking skill position players. Okay, Davion Peters, I mentioned a little bit on the show yesterday, but didn't quite give him the time and credit that he deserves. 4-star wide receiver. Some still have him as a 3-star. 4-star guy from Lake Belton, down in Temple, in our own backyard here at 5'11", 165. This kid is a slash stud. And by slash studs, which I am going to talk about one in the next segment too, guys, it's like what they used to call Cordell Stewart with the Steelers, slash. Because he can play this position, slash this position, slash this position, slash this position. Davion Peters is that. Mr. All Everything in a big-time division of high school football in the state of Texas. Reminder, this is the program that produced Micah Hudson 2 years ago. Okay, he's part of the class of 24. This kid was an absolute stud. One of the best receivers in the country. Certainly at the time going into his senior year, the best uncommitted player in all of high school football. We know how that's kind of gotten weird the last couple of months with Tech and A&M, but this is a program that has already, a school that's less than 10 years old, I mean, maybe even less than 5 years old, has produced some big-time talent at that position. Davion Peters is the next one there. And in fact, I'll go back to, I did a feature story for Dave Campbell's Texas Football about Micah Hudson, and Lake Belton's coach, Brian Cope, great guy. He said all the great things about Micah and what he does for that position group and everything. And he says, a couple years you'll hear from this other kid. Davion Peters is who he was talking about. Okay, we're hearing from him. And now he's committed to Baylor, something that Micah Hudson never did, unfortunately. This kid does it all. Again, pretty evenly, by the way. 60 rushes this year and 57 catches. So he's getting the ball any way that they can get it to him. 60 rushes for 512 yards, 8.5 yards per carry at the running back position, and 10 touchdowns was pretty big for them in the red zone as well. And then receiving, again, near 60 catches at 57 for 700 yards, 12 and a half yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns right there. Bam. Like, this kid is, at any time that Lake Belton can get him the ball, they get him the ball. And I'm wondering, with this Jake Spavital kind of offense, we compare it to the old Art Briles, Philip Montgomery, Kendall Briles kind of offense, right? That's what they're more or less trying to run here. And what was Art Briles so great at in terms of recruiting was finding those guys that maybe weren't the 4 or 5 stars. Again, Davion Peters, a little bit between 3 and 4, depending on the outlet you look at. He didn't necessarily find the 5 stars all the time. He found guys who played a couple different positions in high school that were track stars, and he knew had the athleticism and the football intelligence to play several different positions because that's what he was going to do at Baylor. I don't know what the long-term outlook is for Jake Spavital at Baylor because he's good. He's a good offensive coach, and he doesn't stay anywhere very long, right? Because of that. So if he is going to be here for a couple of years, though, are we going to start seeing more guys like Davion Peters, okay, who have touched the ball in so many different ways in high school? Any way you can get him out in space, get him the ball near the goal line, jump ball situation, like he's the guy you go to. I wonder if we start seeing more prospects like that. Maybe they do come from smaller schools, like Belton ain't a small school, but maybe they do come from smaller schools and in some different areas of the state of Texas that you might not normally find them. I wouldn't say Temple's a humongous hotbed, but he and, Jamarion Carlton's a big time prospect in this class as well. Maybe that's the kind of prospect you start to see come to Baylor. Those guys who play running back, wide receiver, quarterback, defensive back in high school, or, guys who play both sides of the line, like you saw with a guy like Jackson Blackwell from Lorena, or, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like guys who aren't specialty position guys, great athletes that Jake Spavital or even Dave Aranda defensively says, we'll find a spot for you. We just need you on the field. Okay. We'll find a position for you. Don't worry. We'll get you the best spot possible, but we need you on the field like they did in high school. So Davion Peters, that is one of the guys of this 2026 class I am already super excited about. Like really seeing what he's going to bring to the table here. And there are a couple of those athletes. They're just known as athletes in the recruiting services, ATH, right? That Baylor is targeting in this class. There's one that's going to have a commitment here in a few weeks that I think you guys will drool over if you watch his highlights. Let's talk about him and some of the other Baylor targets that are ready to commit coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Okay. I love that you can just get in there, one app, and manage everything. Everything else in our lives is like 6 different apps, watching TV, tracking stuff. I'm sick of it. Monarch Money, one app right there, everything. You can track all your accounts in one place. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code locked on, COLLEGE, for half off your first year. Okay, so now who is Baylor targeting? Because as I've said several times in the last couple of weeks, it's that month of July that you start to see him rolling in. Okay, we've seen all the teases, right? Quinn Murphy's out there like, we've got 10 new Baylor Bears ready to commit. Okay, we're getting excited. We've gone through the official visits, the 3 official visit weekends that Baylor just hosted, and brought in hundreds of prospects to come see the facility. Now, these commitments are going to start to roll in over the next couple of weeks. July is a big, massive time for that. And we're already starting to see some of these get scheduled. Some guys who have Baylor in their Final 4, Final 5, Final 10, whatever people are doing, we're starting to see it come to fruition. Cosi Okpala, if I may. Cosi Okpala. I hope I'm saying that right. From Maid Creek down in Katy. 3-star edge rusher who, again, kind of the outlets, 3-star, low 4-star, probably going to see become a 4-star in the senior year, just kind of like what we saw with Cabor and Morgan last year at South Oak Cliff. Just that's the way it's trending. He said his Final 4. Okay. And those schools would be Miami, Penn State, the University of Texas, and, well, yeah, the fourth one is Baylor. I can't say it enough. I know I said it on yesterday's show too. I sound like a broken record to a lot of you. My Rubber Soul album is broken. I'm going to sound like that. And that is the fact that you're on the table with those guys still does mean something. Like Baylor as a program has evolved past a lot of its moral victories that it had in the past. Like I'm not sitting here, banging my chest over DJ Lagway having us at the table. I think that's important context, but now that he hasn't committed to us, that's done. Like we have kids committing over big time programs, right? Jordan Deck just committed over Michigan and Penn State. Taz Williams last year committed over Michigan. It does happen, but in the terms of something that we're looking towards, that is still a big deal. That commitment is coming on July the 3rd, by the way. So again, we're starting to see it in those next couple weeks of these guys kind of narrowing it down and now are about to make their decision. Cosi Okpala has some big time prospects, I would say. 6'2", 230, huge frame, big wingspan, pretty good at getting to the quarterback, right, as a pass rusher, but using those quickness moves to get there. Gabe Brooks says owns the physical traits and natural athleticism that could lead to long-term NFL draft candidacy. That's what we like to hear. Okay, 5 sacks last year, a couple of pass breakups too, a couple of forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 17 tackles for loss down there at Maid Creek 6A football. Okay, living in the opponent's backfields and going up against power 4 prospect offensive linemen week after week after week. Texas is warm on him, but Baylor has put in a huge rush the last couple of weeks. He visited UT this past weekend on the 20th, visited Baylor the week before. Alabama also in that mix too, but now not out there outside the top 4. Penn State, Miami, Baylor, Texas. And Baylor's put on the late push. That's huge. I told you we're going to do another slash stud here, is what I'm calling them. The slash guys. The ATHs in EA Sports College Football, Road to Glory, and also on every recruiting outlet that you look at. Paris Melvin Jr. has not set a date for that commitment yet. Cy Springs High School. We know how good Baylor's done, how well Baylor's done in the Cypress area the last few years. Baylor, Arizona, Ole Miss, and Houston, local team, the UH Cougars, are in for this 4-star athlete guy. And when I say like these guys play several different positions, most guys play in Power 4, play a couple different positions in high school. But again, 6A guy, this is what he's doing at these 2 positions, by the way. I'm just going to narrow it to 2. How about that? All right. Because he plays running back, receiver, and a little bit of wildcat quarterback on offense, and he plays defensive back on defense. He rarely comes off the field. Okay. For this year in rushing, 1,000 yards, 7.5 yards per carry, 110 yards per game, which led to six 100-yard games on the ground and 18 touchdowns on the ground. And then just to add to that, they throw him out there out wide, 22 receptions for 352 yards, long ball threat, 16 yards per completion or per catch, 3 touchdowns through the air as well. Gabe Brooks says this kid can play running back and defensive back at the next level. Do I hear next Travis Hunter? Right there. It's going to be a blitz that Baylor needs to put on to pry him away from Houston. Those are the top two right now. And I'll throw shade at Houston at other times. They've got a decent thing going here in the very early days, I should say. The very early days of the Willie Fritz era. I think they've got something good going. And not for nothing, but also coming out of Cyprus is Connor Wegman, their new quarterback. So they do have something going here. But with the momentum that we've seen from Baylor on the recruiting trail the last couple of years, specifically the last 14 months or so here, there's no reason that Paris Melvin should be saying, nah, I don't want to go to Baylor. The succession plan at quarterback, Houston does have a 5-star, by the way. The succession plan at quarterback, the way this offense has looked recently and the offensive mind that Jake Spavital is, it's still a tough one to turn down. It's a really tough offer to turn down playing offense for the Baylor Bears at this point, 2025, 2026, and beyond. Those are the guys I'm looking at. And when we get some Final Fours here and some dates put out there for when these guys are going to commit, I'm going to update you right here on Locked On Baylor. Trust me. And I'm thinking that we make these Thursdays some heavy recruiting angles. But just from the beginning of this week, before the Jordan Deck commitment, 247 had Baylor at 53 nationally. They're now at 42. 42, you want to be higher than that, and they will get higher than that. But basically, 2 commitments later, they've moved up 11 spots. That's huge. That's huge for this program, and I don't think we've seen the best recruits of this calendar year committing to Baylor just yet. We're going to put a bow on it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, we got to go to our newest sponsor on the Locked On Podcast Network, and that is Reshape. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Reshape ready. Reshape Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost your blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Reshape's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and it kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control right when the moment is right. Okay, it's completely online. Reshape connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. You can even read the real customer reviews on their site. It's helped over 150,000 men who have already made the switch. So head to Reshape.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, to get 15% off today. That's Reshape, RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege, and use the promo code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. So please visit the Reshape website for full safety information. Wrapping it up here on Locked On Baylor. Just want to know what you guys think about this recruiting class so far and where you want to see Baylor at. I've said some of the best recruiting classes in Baylor history, some of the best teams in Baylor history have gone off classes that are like barely top 30. Okay, and they've still found ways to succeed. So let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. Who are the guys that you're looking at? Maybe it's someone that's playing at your local high school that you get to see every week that isn't getting the shine yet, or someone who carved up your team that you're like, man, Baylor's got to get on board with him. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And also, it's summertime. I'm taking mailbag questions. If you have something that you want me to talk about from a Baylor perspective on this show, please let me know in the comments. Tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. DM us. The DMs are open. Okay, just let us know what you're thinking about, what's on your brain going into this 2025 Baylor football season, or even any of the Baylor basketball seasons. Let me know. I've had people jump in the comments and say, hey, Cam, why aren't you talking about this? And then I go on and talk about it. So I'm looking for content too. I want to know. I want to be the voice for you fans. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Be sure to like, to subscribe. Still about 50% of you who are watching every day are not subscribed. That helps out the channel a ton. We are hot on the trail of 4,000 subscribers and doubling our subscriber count from the last year and a half. So please go ahead and do that. Tell a friend. And we will see you on Monday with more Baylor sports news on your favorite channel. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. Locked on Baylor.